All right, welcome back. This is going to be part 50. We have made it to 50 videos on this presentation of the flood and Noah's Ark. And I expect there to be at least 50 more, at minimum. And so, but we've been going through, last time we were together, I was giving you the introduction of Dinosaur National Monument. And we're going to continue with that. And I'm looking at possibly the possibility of 2 more videos. And that's including this one here. But let's go through some more information about this area. In October 1915, President Woodrow Wilson established the Carnegie Quarry and 80 acres surrounding it as Dinosaur National Monument. Now, the next one there is a quote from Earl Douglas, the one who founded the Carnegie Quarry and this whole area here with that find of the 8 vertebrates bones from the Apatosaur. This is what he said: "I hope that the government, for the benefit of science and the people, will uncover a large area, leave the bones and skeletons in relief, and house them. It would make one of the most astounding and instructive sights imaginable." And that was from Earl Douglas, and that's what they did. That's exactly what they did. And so now that visitor center ended up being called the Quarry Exhibit Hall, and it says that in 1958 the Quarry Exhibit Hall is completed and open to the public for the first time. In 1999, the Wall of Bones is completed for display. From 2006 to 2011, the Quarry Exhibit Hall was closed for renovations. And so now I'll say this, that's what I liked about Earl Douglas. What a cool idea to leave the bones in situ, right where they're at. Don't excavate them out. Just leave them there and build a museum around it. I think that is a fascinating thing. I really do I can appreciate somebody's mind that thinks like that. Now it says here, mammals are not depicted in what is called the Age of Reptiles. That's when they believe dinosaurs and reptiles, for the most part, they ruled the planet. They were the only ones on the planet for the most part. But mammal fossils are well represented in the Morrison Formation at Dinosaur National Monument. So kind of conflicting information there, despite what the evolutionists are saying about dinosaurs and the quote-unquote age of the reptiles. The tangled knot of bones is an awesome example of a mass burial deposit. No less than a dozen well-articulated sauropods were excavated over a 15-year period ending in 1924. And if you'll notice here, I'm going to show you some pictures of this. This is this area, this wall of bones. Check it out, guys. Check it out. I mean, can you make sense of any of that? That's what if you notice these bones here, that's what you call disarticulated. Disarticulated. They are not together. They are not together whatsoever. You may have some that may be a little bit more together than others, but this looked like they put dinosaurs in the blender and just ran them, and turned it on high and then dumped them back out. Here's another picture here of this person. I'd love to be climbing all over those bones there. But check it out. They're all in there, just situated just like they are. And look at that. You got legs and looks like maybe a tail or backbone. Maybe a pelvic bone in there, some ribs. I mean, it's all just a jumbled mess is what it is. Here's another one. Look at that. That's amazing. Using the bones as like stairs. God, what a sight that must be. And then here's another one here. Look like some leg bones and maybe a pelvic or rib bone in there I'm looking at. But man, they're just massive, huge. And again, all these bones are all disarticulated. It's just a jumbled mess. This dinosaur just didn't lay down and fossilize. This was a catastrophic event, and so you're thinking about when you think of the way these dinosaurs were deposited here, you can think that maybe they were in big swirls of water, piled just big mats of dinosaurs all jumbled up upon each other. And of course, being in water, they're going to start to decompose and fall apart. And you may have parts of a dinosaur, just very few parts at all that are even there. And then again, in other areas, depending on the cycling of the water, the deposit, how some might have been buried before others were buried under giant land masses, giant land avalanches and different sediments that covered up some before they covered up the others. And so just all different types of reasons and how they were deposited. And but again, showing a catastrophic event, exactly what we would find in the biblical historical worldwide flood. And so now there's some really neat information here. This is actually from their website, and I'm going to point out something here. We're going to look at something really, really that I thought was interesting. The Morrison Formation has yielded numerous fossilized ferns, cicads, ginkgos, horsetails, and large conifer trees. As big as the dinosaurs of the Morrison were, they would have been dwarfed by the massive conifers that dominated their ecosystem. Many of these trees are, whatever that word there, brachyphyllum, I'll try it, short-leaf plants is what that means, in the family of that, which means very tall evergreen trees. By measuring their diameters and comparing them to what we know of their modern-day relatives, scientists have determined that some of the conifers, get this guys, may have been similar in size to today's tallest redwoods. And so again, we're talking about giant plants and giant trees before the flood. Now I'm going to go ahead and say this is not millions of years ago. We're talking before the flood, And so now when we're talking about redwoods, for some of you guys that may not be, they may say, okay, the tallest redwoods. They might be thinking it's just some regular tree. And so, oh no, that wasn't some little old blind statement of what they were making there when they were comparing the size of these things to redwoods. Redwoods are enormous, enormous trees. And so I'm going to share we're going to rabbit trail just a little bit. I'm going to tell you about redwood trees. There's 3 species of trees that are commonly referred to as redwoods. You got California's coast redwood and giant sequoia and the China's dawn redwood. Now, if you look over to the right, you'll see an apple tree, a 10-story building. Look at that giant sequoia, guys. That's not before the flood. That's what's growing now. I can only imagine what these things must have been before the flood, because they are already enormous. I mean, enormous trees. And then you got the coast redwood there. Now, if you'll notice right below that picture there, you got 2 trees, and look at the picture of that man there. Look how little he is compared to those trees, guys. You could bore a home inside of this thing and make several stories of homes. You could have a whole population in these trees. These trees are enormous, are absolutely enormous. And we're going to talk about just how enormous they are. Now, if you'll look in the 3 gray boxes that I have right there to the left, we're going to look at these trees one by one. I'm going to show you just how big they can get. Now, the coast redwood, that's the California's coast redwood, the tallest, I'm going to take this is the tallest one that they have found, was 380 feet. Now, that is tall as a 37-story building, a 37-story building. And now, as far as the widest was 29.2 feet. Now, the width of that would be the length of 2 Volkswagen Beetles end to end. That's how wide that tree is. And again, for anybody that may be saying, that's hogwash, Look down there at the right-hand corner, and you can see that man standing next to two redwoods. They get enormous. It's absolutely just hard to even imagine something like that. Now, also, these coast redwoods can live more than 2,000 years old. 2,000 years old. That's just amazing. Absolutely amazing. The next one down there is a giant sequoia redwood, the tallest 316 feet, which is 31 stories, a 31-story building. The widest is the length of two Toyota Priuses end to end. That's how wide that they found one of those trees to be. The biggest is 642 tons. That's that's the weight of 107 elephants. 107 elephants. And they can live up to 3,000 years old. 3,000 years old. Now, the dawn redwood, the tallest, now this one right here, this dawn redwood is like um, a miniature one compared to these other ones I just gave. But the tallest is 120 feet, which is still tall. 120 feet up is tall and can grow taller than 160 feet. And the trunk can be as wide as 7 feet. Not as impressive as those other two, but still, that's a big tree. That's a big tree. Now, going on, I'm going to share you some more information from their website. This is from their website. The dinosaurs in Quarry Exhibit Hall lived in the late Jurassic period. I'm giving you what they're saying. Okay, this is not what I'm saying. This is what they're saying. Long before the end Cretaceous extinction event, while dinosaurs are the most popular fossils at the quarry, it's actually clams that are much more common. The Jurassic clams at the quarry belong to the group, whatever that is, Unionidae or something like that, Unionidae, which still has many living members in freshwater rivers around the world today. Their presence is a clear indication that the quarry sandstone was home to a freshwater river channel in the late Jurassic. We know from modern river ecology that unionid clams require a permanent source of moving water to survive. When water is present, clams are sometimes buried alive in the river sediment. These are usually found with closed shells. Conversely, unionid clams that die when the water isn't present are typically found with their shells open. During excavations at the quarry, paleontologists found at least 3 events where large numbers of clams were fossilized with open shells. This suggests that their river habitat experienced at least 3 severe droughts where large swaths of the river dried up, causing the clams to die. So now they're looking at it in a different way. Long periods of time. This is the evolutionary side of it. We're going to show you the creationist side of it, but this is what they're saying. This is the evolutionary side of it. It goes on. As for the dinosaurs, the wall of bones reveals a variety of species and ages among the bones. Sauropods, long-necked plant-eating dinosaurs, are the most common, but 3 species of theropods, 2-legged meat-eating dinosaurs, were also found. Many of the bones in the quarry sandstone are disarticulated. That means separated from one another, indicating that they would have had some time for their flesh to decay before burial. Some of the bones even bear signs of scavenging, such as tooth marks. All of this seems to indicate that the land-dwelling animals were just as affected by droughts as the clams. Based on observations of modern wetland ecosystems, paleontologists think the dinosaurs spent a lot of time around the river, especially during droughts. Without rain, the plants would have died in large numbers or had greatly reduced nutritional value. Each day, the dinosaurs would have had to travel farther for this low-quality food and still return to the river for water. For some, this lifestyle was unsustainable and they died. Going on. Studies of wetland ecosystems today have shown that large animals such as elephants tend to die along the shore or in the dried up sections of riverbeds during droughts. When the rains return, these rivers often overflow their banks, restoring clam populations, depositing sediments, and carving new channels. Nearby bones and debris are collected during this process and swept downstream. These tend to settle along the bends or sandbars where the sediment is higher. Protruding elements such as vertebrate anchor the bones to the sediment, altering the river's scouring patterns and collecting debris. The upstream facing ends of bones tend to sink as the water passes around them, sweeping sediments out from under that end of the bone. In effect, the bones set up the conditions for their own burial. Identical dispersal patterns also appear in the quarry fossil wall. For these reasons, it is thought that the current quarry wall was once a bend or sandbar in an ancient riverbed where debris and dinosaur bones collected. Like many animals today, the dinosaurs likely died along the shore or in dried up sections of their river during droughts. Because some of the bones are articulated, connected as they would have been in life, and in some are disarticulated, and that means that they're not together. It's thought that the individual dinosaurs were in various states of decay when they were buried, suggesting that they died at different times rather than in one catastrophic event. Now you can see where the controversy is laying there. They're not saying that all these dinosaurs died in one catastrophic event, but they died during different time periods. In this one way. And this is not going to be the first time you're going to see this type of description where they believe dinosaurs died by some either localized flooding or maybe a log jam of the animals itself, where they all just kind of piled up into one area after they were drowned. And then over time, they would be covered up through sediments of whatever localized flooding it was, and then that's when they would be fossilized in an event. But what they're saying here is that the dinosaurs just kind of got washed downstream, and some of them that had been decayed more than others, during the certain bends of the river, the bones got caught up. And what happened is a bunch of bones got all caught up, and where there's some of them were more articulated than others, but you had this big jam or this big mass of dinosaur bones, and then over time they got covered up with sediments, and then the fossilization appeared. And so, but at any rate, and then other dinosaurs maybe had died with whatever event it was, and they were articulated. They didn't get washed downstream. So that's the reason why you would have some that would be considered articulated and some that would be considered disarticulated. But going on, it says, after the drought ended and the rains returned, the river would have overflowed with water again, sweeping the bones downstream, just like I stated, with the river flowing and continuously depositing sediment. This would have allowed the bones and debris to be buried quickly and begin the process of fossilization. And so, again, that is their answer to what they're finding. And so, again, not one catastrophic event is what they're saying, but over a period of time, just with the natural everyday occurrences with life and animal life and stuff like that. And so, but I'm going to talk more about that in the future. And it's not going to be the first time you're going to see that that type of incident there, the way they're describing it. And so, but let's go ahead and stop right there. When we come back, I'm going to try to finish up. I can't say that I will be able to. And so, again, it's just, with the amount of information that's in here, we're also going to be looking at a different area. We're going to be in the Morris information, but we're going to look at another area that's quite revealing of what they found too. And so, and again, guys, you can put these different puzzle pieces together. And if you look at it with a biblical worldview, you can clearly see a one catastrophic event. But you take the Bible out and you don't believe what it says, then you got to come up with something for what you're seeing here. And again, with evolution, it's going to be different stages of different time periods. And so now I did talk to a gentleman who was a uniformitarianist, and he did state that they've changed their view on sediments laying down rapidly, though they're saying that the sediments that lay down rapidly happened millions of years ago. So it's still, they're still holding on to that long time period, but they're saying that yes, they believe that sediments doesn't have to take millions of years for each sediment to lay on top of one another. That can happen quickly, but that quickly happened several millions of years ago. And so it's still the same thing. They're still holding on to the same belief. And so they're trying to hold on to that theory as much as possible. And so they don't want to put the Bible into it, just like Lyell says. They are trying to free the science from Moses. What are they saying? Is they're trying to take science out of the Bible, and they're trying to take the Bible out of science. And they're trying to say that any connection of the two doesn't work. And that's not true. That's not true. Bible does not contradict science. The Bible contradicts evolution. That's what it does. And so, but anyway, guys, I love you. Hope the Lord bless you real good, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.